Take those soul gems back. Okay, jewelry. Nope, not the fucking shield. Clothes. Weapons. Those are books we've read. These are notes. Alright. Dark Brotherhood Assassin note. How to milk a beast. Let's see. Elver's blacksmithing. Yeah, okay. Smuggler's journal. Cool. Shields. What do we got here? Unique comma. Oh, you know, this is the stuff I've enchanted. Can't do that. Fossil rock. Map of dragon burials. Can't get rid of the horn of Jurgen Windcaller, of course. Let's see, soul gems. And some torches. Okay. Now I got that spell tome. Conjure Avenging Wraith. Yeah. Okay. And wasn't there one other thing I was gonna do? I don't know. I gotta use the bathroom, so give me a second. We'll be right back. Alright, and we're back. So, I guess I'm gonna do just like some story time with Mystery. Mystery's book club. Let's do it. You know, I got some books in my inventory. I might as well read them. Let's see. Children's Annuad. The Children's Annuad. The Annuad paraphrased. The first ones were brothers, Anu and Padme. They came into the void and time began. As Anu and Padme wandered the void, the interplay of light and darkness created Nier. Both Anu and Padme were amazed and delighted with her appearance, but she loved Anu and Padme retreated from them in bitterness. Nier became pregnant, but before she gave birth, Padme returned, professing his love for Nier. She told him that she loved only Anu, and Padme beat her in rage. Anu returned, fought Padme, and cast him outside time. Nier gave birth to creation, but died from her injuries soon after. Anu, grieving, hid himself in the sun and slept. Meanwhile, life sprang up on the 12 worlds of creation and flourished. After many ages, Padme was able to return to time. He saw creation and hated it. He swung his sword, shattering the 12 worlds in their alignment. Anu awoke and fought Padme again. The long and furious battle ended with Anu the victor. He cast aside the body of his brother, who he believed was dead, and attempted to save creation by forming the remnants of the 12 worlds into one, Nirn, the world of Tamriel. As he was doing so, Padme struck him through the chest with one last blow. Anu grappled with his brother and pulled them both outside of time forever. The blood of Padme became the Daedra, the blood of Anu became the stars. The mingled blood of both became the Aedra, hence their capacity for good and evil, and their greater affinity for earthly affairs than the Daedra, who have no connection to creation. On the world of Nirn, all was chaos. The only survivors of the 12 worlds of creation were the Elnafey and the Hist. The Elnafey are the ancestors of Mare and Men. The Hist are the trees of Argonia. Nirn originally was all land, with interspersed seas, but no oceans. A large fragment of the Elnafey world landed on Nirn relatively intact, and the Elnafey living there were the ancestors of the Mer. These Elnafey fortified their borders from the chaos outside, hid their pocket of calm, and attempted to live on as before. Other Elnophae arrived on Nirn scattered amid the confused jumble of the shattered worlds, wandering and finding each other over the years. Eventually, the wandering Elnophae found the hidden land of old Elnophae, and were amazed and joyful to find their kin living amid the splendor of ages past. The wandering Elnophae expected to be welcomed into the peaceful realm, but the old Elnophae looked on them as degenerates, fallen from their former glory. For whatever reason, war broke out and raged across the whole of Nirn. The old Elnophae retained their ancient power and knowledge, but the Wanderers were more numerous and toughened by their long struggle to survive on Nirn. This war reshaped the face of Nirn, sinking much of the land beneath new oceans, and leaving the lands as we know them, Tamriel, Akavir, Atmora, and Yokuda. The old Elnophae realm, although ruined, became Tamriel. The remnants of the Wanderers were left divided on the other three continents. Over many years, the Elnophae of Tamriel became the Mare, elves, the Dwemer, the Deep Ones, sometimes called dwarves, the Chimer, the Changed Ones, who later became the Dunmer, the Dark Accursed Ones, the Dark Elves, the Bosmer, the Green or Forest Ones, the Wood Elves, and the Altmer, the Elder or High Ones, the High Elves. On the other continents, the wandering Elnophae became the Men, the Nords of Atmora, the Red Guards of Yokuda, and the Saesi of Akavir. Or the Seichi, sorry. It's pronounced Seichi, I always forget that. The Hist were bystanders in the Elnophae War, but most of their realm was destroyed as the war passed over it. A small corner of it survived to become Blackmarsh and Tamriel, but most of their realm was sunk beneath the sea. Eventually, men returned to Tamriel. The Nords were the first, colonizing the north coast of Tamriel before recorded history, led by the legendary Ysgramor. The 13th of his line, King Harald, was the first to appear in written history, and so the mythic era ended. That's an interesting tidbit of information that I almost never hear get brought up. The fact that allegedly the realm of the Hist was way bigger, and that it's sunk beneath the sea like Atlantis, and that Blackmarsh is just the last little piece that is left, and the Argonians are the only ones left surviving, like the Argonians from Blackmarsh. Like, no one ever talks about that in lore videos and such. It's kind of interesting. Okay, let's see. Children's Annuad. Okay, I want to make sure before I read... Wait. Oh, am I looking at the wrong shelf? Oh, is this a quest item? That's annoying. Okay, have I read the first Argonian account? Yes, I have. Okay, so I can read the next two. Hey Lydia, do you mind? Okay. Anyway, Argonian account book 2 by Wohin Jarth. Woffin Jarth. Decimus Scotti emerged from the dirt and reeds, exhausted from running, his face and arms sheathed in red flesh flies. Looking back towards Cyrodiil, he saw the bridge disappear beneath the thick black river, and he knew he was not getting back until the tide went down in a few days' time. The river also held in its adhesive depths his files in the Blackmarsh account. He would have to rely on his memory for his contacts in Gideon. Malik was purposefully striding through the reeds ahead. Flailing ineffectually at the flesh flies, Scotti hurried after him. "We're lucky, sir," said the Red Guard, which struck Scotti as an extraordinarily odd thing to say until his eyes followed where the man's finger was pointing. "The caravan is here." 21 rusted, mud-spattered wagons with rotting wood and wobbly wheels sat half-sunk in the soft earth ahead. A crowd of Argonians, gray-scaled and gray-eyed, the sort of sullen manual laborers that were common in the Cyrodiil, pulled at one of the wagons which had been detached from the others. As Scotti and Malik came closer, they saw it was filled with a cargo of black berries, so decayed that they had become hardly recognizable, more a festering jelly than a wagon load of fruit. Yes, they were going to the city of Gideon, and yes, they said Scotti could get a ride with them after they were finished unloading this shipment of lumberries. How long ago were they picked? Scotti asked, looking at the wagon's rotten produce. The harvest was in last seed, of course, said the Argonian, who seemed to be in charge of the wagon. It was now sun's dusk, so they had been en route from the fields for a little over 2 months. Clearly, Scotti thought, there were problems with transportation, but fixing that, after all, was what he was doing here as a representative of Lord Vannick's building commission. It took close to an hour of the berries rotting before even more in the sun even more in the sun, for the wagon to be pushed to the side, the wagons in front of it and behind it to be attached to one another, and one of the 8 horses from the front of the caravan to be brought around to the now independent wagon. The laborers moved with dispirited lethargy, and Scotty took the opportunity to inspect the rest of the caravan and talk to his fellow travelers. 4 of the wagons had benches in them, fit for uncomfortable riders. All the rest were filled with grain, meat, and vegetation in various stages of corruption. The travelers consisted of 6 Argonian laborers, 3 Imperial merchants so bug-bitten that their skin looked as scaly as the Argonians themselves, and 3 cloaked fellows who were evidently Dunmer, judging by the red eyes that gleamed in the shadows under their hoods. All were transporting their goods along the Imperial Commerce Road. "This is a road?" Scotty exclaimed, looking at the endless field of reeds that reached up to his chin or higher. "It's solid ground of a sort," one of the hooded Dunmer shrugged. "The horses eat some of the reed, and sometimes we set fire to it, but it just grows right back up." Finally, the wagon master signaled that the caravan was ready to go, and Scotty took a seat in the 3rd wagon with the other Imperials. He looked around, but Malik was not on board. "I agreed to get you to Black Marsh and take you back out," said the Red Guard, who had plumped down a rock in the sea of reeds and was munching on a hairy carrot. "I'll be here when you get back." Scotty frowned, and not only because Malik had dropped the deferential title Sir while addressing him. Now he truly knew no one in Black Marsh, but the caravan slowly grinded and bumped forward, so there was no time to argue. A noxious wind blew across the Commerce Road, casting patterns in the endless featureless expanse of reeds. In the distance there seemed to be mountains, but they constantly shifted, as Scotty realized they were banks of mist and fog. Shadows flitted across the landscape, and when Scotty looked up he saw they were being cast by giant birds with long saw-like beaks nearly the size of the rest of their bodies. "Hackwings, Cairo," Gumulus, an Imperial on Scotty's left, who might have been young but looked old and beaten, muttered. "Like everything else in this damnable place, they'll eat you if you don't keep moving. Beggars pounce down and give you a nasty chop and then fly off and come back when you're mostly dead from blood loss." Scotty shivered. He hoped they'd be in Gideon before nightfall. It was then it occurred to him that the sun was on the wrong side of the caravan. "Excuse me, sir," Scotty called to the wagon master. "I thought you said we were going to Gideon." The wagon master nodded. "Why are we going north, then? When we should be going south?" There was no reply but a sigh. Scotty confirmed with his fellow travelers that they too were going to Gideon, and none of them seemed very concerned about the circuitous route to getting there. The seats were hard on his middle-aged back and buttocks, but the bumping rhythm of the caravan and the hypnotic waving reeds gradually had an effect on him, and Scotty drifted off to sleep. He awoke in the dark some hours later, not sure where he was. The caravan was no longer moving, and he was on the floor under the bench, next to some small boxes. There were voices speaking a hissing, clicking language Scotty didn't understand, and he peeked out between someone's legs to see what was happening. The moons barely pierced the thick mist surrounding the caravan, and Scotty did not have the best angle to see who was talking. For a moment, it looked like the gray wagon master was talking to himself, but the darkness had movement and moisture, in fact, glistening scales. It was hard to tell how many of these things there were, but they were big, black, and the more Scotty looked at them, the more details he could see. When one particular detail emerged, huge mouths filled with dripping needle-like fangs, Scotty slipped back under the bench. Their black little eyes had not fallen on him yet. The legs in front of Scotty moved, and then began to thrash, as their owner was grabbed and pulled out of the wagon. Scotty crouched further back, getting behind the little boxes. He didn't know much about concealment, but had some experience with shields. He knew that having anything, in between you and bad things was always good. A few seconds after the legs had disappeared from sight, there was a horrible scream, and then a second and a third, different timbres, different accents, but the same inarticulate message, terror and pain, horrible pain. Scotty remembered a long-forgotten prayer to the god Stendar and whispered it to himself. Then there was silence, ghastly silence that lasted only a few minutes, but which seemed like hours, years. And then the carriage started rolling forward again. Scotty cautiously crawled out from under the carriage. Cairo Cumulus gave him a bemused grin. "There you are," he said. "I thought the Nagas took you." "Nagas?" "Nasty characters," Cumulus said, frowning. "Puff adders with legs and arms, 7 feet tall, 8 when they're mad. Come from the inner swamp, and they don't like it here much, so they're particularly peevish. You're the kind of posh Imperial they're looking for." Scotty had never in his life thought of himself as posh. His mud and fleshlight bespeckled clothing seemed eminently middle class at best to him. What would they want me for? "To rob, of course," the Imperial smiled, "and to kill. You didn't notice what happened to the others?" The Imperial frowned as if struck by a thought. You didn't sample from those boxes down below, did you? Like the sugar, do you? Gods, no. Scotty grimaced. The Imperial nodded, relieved. You just seem a little slow. First time to Black Marsh, I gather? Oh, hey-ho. Hissed piss. Scotty was just about to ask Emulus what that vulgar term meant when the rain began. It was an inferno of foul-smelling yellow-brown rain that washed over the caravan, accompanied by the growl of thunder in the distance. Emulus worked to pull the roof up over the wagon, glaring at Scotty until he helped with the laborious process. He shuddered, not only from the cold damp, but from contemplation of the disgusting precipitation pouring down on the already nasty produce in the uncovered wagon. We'll be dry soon enough, Emulus smiled, pointing out into the fog. Scotty had never been to Gideon, but he knew what to expect. A large settlement more or less laid out like an imperial city, with more or less imperial-style architecture and all the imperial comforts and traditions more or less. The jumble of huts, half sunk in mud, was decidedly less. Where are we? Asked Scotty, bewildered. Hixenog, replied Gemulus, pronouncing the queer name with confidence. You were right. We were going north when we should have been going south. Well, this guy's fucked. Alright, let's put that in the bookshelf. Ooh, that's a big one. Where's book 1 is red. Interesting. Alright, well, I think I am going to leave it here probably for today. I think I've had enough reading and my food is on the way. So, yeah. I hope you guys enjoyed this installment of the Elder Scrolls V Skyrim. I know I did, and I'll see you in the next one. Until then, peace out, Lydia.